Inside won't heal till we have our girls and see them smile. Bring them home, back home. Bring them home, back home.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this special event. It's still April 2024. It's the month the Chibok abduction of April 14, 2014. And when the Bring Back Our Girls Lagos family started talking about the 10 years, we thought it would be important as part of the conversation to do this documentation. There have been quite a number of, not quite a number, a few books. There have been a few documentary videos as well, but both on the federal government side and on civil society side. There haven't been really a comprehensive narrative about the journey of the girls. But leading up to the 10 years, the Maurice Halal Muhammad Foundation published a comprehensive, I think the first one that actually then listed all the names of the girls in the different categories. So this was meant to be part of the activities of 10 years, but it wasn't ready at the time. And as fortuitous as that then became, a number of conversations then happened following the 10 years that then makes this a much richer conversation. So the objective, as a few people have asked me, is why this? What is this about? Earlier today, I had my apologies. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Opayemi Adamaleku. I serve as an executive director for the North of Nigeria. I'm also part of the Bring Back Our Girls movement, particularly the Lagos family. And so when people ask me, what is this about? What is the where are they now? I had a conversation earlier today that, in a sense, parallels where are they now with where are we now as a people. So where are they now journeys looks to document as much as possible the story of the Chibok girls over the last decade, what they've done, their stories, their successes, and indeed some of their challenges as well. But part of the journey of the Chibok girls is the challenge that we have as a people in Nigeria, the big one being documentation. Number one, the numbers are contested. Different lists have different people. We also know that their names have changed over time. Someone told me, for example, that one of the students in the US, the name that's on her passport was not the name she was known at home. So if you see her on the WAEC list, she'll be a different name. And if you see her now in 2024, and it will be different. So where are they now and where are we now? Are kind of two sides of the same coin. Before you, you'll see two infographics. One on the left was published by SBM Intelligence, and it gives you a map of attacks on education, basically attacks on schools over the last 10 years. So while there was a big uproar about Chibok, 276 girls, a girls' school, Borno State, the world was shocked. Everybody was saying Bring Back Our Girls when the campaign started. But then fast forward to 2024, you had a similar number of kidnapping. Again, that number is contested. Initially 287, 137 children were returned. So 150 discrepancy within that number that hasn't been answered. And that's 10 years later, and barely a blip, even within Nigeria, much less the world that's dealing everything from Ukraine to Gaza to an interesting would-be candidate in the US. So it says that that's the way are we now, that in 10 years, look, if you look at the map, it's no longer about it's the north. That's the problem, as some people in southern Nigeria are prone to saying. You can see that it's spread over Nigeria. And the SPM did note there was an error. For example, Lagos should be included because there was a kidnapping and an abduction in the Lagos school, I believe in 2017. And if you look at the map, the graph on the right, that's from Invictus Africa, and they've just focused on primary and secondary school children. So the SPM one has including university. The one on the right is just primary and secondary, and not everywhere. You go northeast, you go southwest, you go north central. So it's not a problem of a particular section of the country. So what I hope to happen, or what we hope to happen this afternoon, is a conversation about where they are, using the stories of the girls, despite incredible odds and the things that they've accomplished, what it means in terms of where they've come from, in terms of Chibok and Borno State, girl child education, and what it means to send your child to school. And where they are now, in terms of what they have done with those who have been able to have had remarkable success, but also the challenges. We've seen the challenges with those who are in the custody of the Borno State government. We've seen the challenges of those who came back with their classmates but say they haven't been afforded the same types of opportunities as well. And then obviously kind of closing comments around where are we in terms of moving forward. It's good to say yes. What do we have to learn and what do we have to do? Not only about the Chibok girls that provide a marker, but as we think about the fact that there have been at least 38 school abductions in the last 10 years. So welcome. Please write your comments in the chat box. We have an interesting panel of people who have been part of this journey and will be willing to engage and ask a question.
Lessons since eternity. Did we not truly go to sleep, take leave of absence from the world of rage? Why then the lamentations? Chibok, Dipcha, neither was yesterday, nor yesteryear, nor decades, nor centuries suddenly absolved of guilt. A forest called Sambisa spells millennial past and present open shoots dispensing lies. We shrink in fear, squeeze dry the province of the mind. Each vacuum grants occupancy to the flatulence of deities. Only the name of Godhead differs. Power is the name it veils, the sacramental end whose hallowed halter keeps humanity in check. Clerics smirk at swelling herds of devotees in rapt assemblage, ranked for feasting. Slaughter racks of centuries stand replaced by mass disposal engines of modernity. The hand that blesses also pulls the lever. History mocks, history strikes again. Our guilt is this. It lies not in a spasm of neglect that gives sheep to wolves for mating. The crime began eons of time ago, descends into the unforeseeable. It lies in this concurrent hour, a metronome ticking time away in antic mode. Mesmeric illusion reigns, and motion fakes progression. We sleep, we wake, others did not. The child in us dies, and the child that died, no one seems to mind. There are other children, captives to be bounced on trampolines of lies. One lie lies flattened, another rises in its place. Sanctified, yet hawked in open stalls, writ revelation. The lie resumes its march in time, in lame pietisms. We gaze beyond the cancer pricked the cyst. Honor killings stay in vogue, child rape draped in festive rites, uneven nuptials. Serially, a child is soiled rags, manfully used, manfully discarded. Behold a nation's cross-border pedophile earn a hero's welcome in Abuja, crucible of laws that claim to set the human sense of being apart from rotting beasts. Salute the martyred groom. Behold the wise elected ones, bonded in lush remunerations, raised to enter laws that make woman of the child once the banns of marriage are pronounced. The cleric's unctuous voice ascends to bless the impatient thrust of lust and emulation. Scripture glib, pontificating groom, who seeks to drape the pervert streak in man in gospel robes and texts inviolate. Is yours a different faith from neighboring Chad? Are you informed? There, prison gates await your soulmate, preening minister of state, who fought to flout his nation's sexual code in deep hinterland, far from policing eyes. Approach the Sufi seers of Senegal for verdict, those saints of self-denial and inner light. Show me the creed that lowers motherhood to 11 years, and I shall lead you to that forest where Chibok bears at wedlock, rape, stigmata, or vaginal fistula. Evasion is what nations manage best. Bow to shrill doctrine, preach toleration even of the intolerant, rationalize the irrational, embrace spiked breasts in fearful deference to creed. We kiss the bishop's crozier regardless, even where the crook is manifestly crooked, turns bludgeon, advertises services for hire to the highest bidders. The cowering catamite awaits his turn behind the altar. Ask not for whom the bell tolls. It tolls, dies irae, for thee. It is mortals, you and I, who grant sanctity to myths that crashed in outer space, centuries before man took his tottering steps on lunar dust. The adopted name of piety is ostentation. Rivalry intends. Who does it loudest, garishly obtrusive? Mere guidance, text from antiquity, from alien worlds, schismatic tussles, turn compulsive to self-strangulate. Walk the markets, explore the slums, peek through curtains of the affluent. The veil of attestation sinks ever lower, till infants, yet unweaned, now don the passport bib and cowl that promise paradise through piety or adulthood, speeded up, ripeness contrived to meet demands of leering legislators. We venerate hot gospelers. Their voices crack pulpits, shrines, and minarets, unleash canticles of unctuous cant, whose shards pierce wide open souls. Their home, diving kestrels on the kill, their fluttering shadows beguile, dance lightly on roofs and barnyards, forestall the wisdom of flight. It may begin in interdiction, yet it ends in the paradox of mirrors. Thou shalt not, why not? There is space enough and tracts of rival faiths for the 11th commandment, thou shalt kill. That God may live uncensored, unbesmirched, thou shalt kill. And there's the chaplets of revisions ministering to sated altars bloat with body bags. What was once forbidden bids, whatever is bidden.
Yes, so we're going to have booklets and then we're going to have two panels. One talking about the girls then, sort of a context in which different people interacted with the girls. And then the second panel about the women now. So in the absence of Grace, hope she will be able to connect later. Yeah, let's talk about the booklet then. If you could show that. Oh, you know what? Let's do this. Let's play Bring Them Home from Kabine.
We want these guys to be rescued with immediate effect.
We come in peace, hand in hand, and we ask that you listen and try to understand. this endless pain, oh, this pain inside won't heal till we have our girls and see them smile, bring them home.
Thank you very much. So on the night of April 14, so the morning of April 15, girls were abducted from Government Girls Secondary School, Chibok State, sparking the Bring Back Our Girls BBOG movement. Most were students of the school and children of the community. On June 20, 2014, ThisDay newspaper published the most comprehensive database of the abducted girls with pictures. They were the first media platform to do so, relying on their research as there was no official list. There were discrepancies between the records of the school, the Borno State Ministry of Education, and the Federal Ministry of Education. Unfortunately, 10 years later, there's still no official government publication that lists all 276 abducted girls and the context of their presence in the school on the night of the abduction. There have been several books and documentaries on the Chibok abduction by local and international stakeholders, but none has documented the trajectory of the girls. On April 11, 2020, NMM launched the first comprehensive publication on the Chibok abduction, the Chibok Girls abduction, a turning point in the global fight against girls abduction. April 14, 2024 made it 10 years since the event that jarred the nation and the world. Unfortunately, history has continued to repeat itself with recent abductions of school children in Delta, Ekiti, Kaduna, Katsina, Kebbi, Lagos, Nasarawa, Niger, Plateau, Sokoto, Yobe, and Zamfara. There have been at least 38 school-related abductions since 2014. Given these horrendous events, the need to remember the missing students and amplify the advocacy for secure spaces for all Nigerians, especially our children in schools, remains paramount. Enough is Enough EA in Nigeria has served as the secretariat of the BBOG Lagos family in recent years. For this milestone, we thought it was important to revisit ThisDay's anchor publication to show what has happened to the girls over the last decade. Over 10 years after the initial 57 girls escaped, there were negotiated release of large groups of 21 and 82 of the girls, and then individual and smaller group escapes and rescue of 26 girls, totaling 129 returned girls. The girls returned with at least 30 children. There are 90 Chibok girls left in captivity, or some colleagues have confirmed that some of the girls died at different times. Some parents have used that information to achieve closure on a very painful chapter in their lives. Unfortunately, the federal government has refused to communicate formally with the parents. This document incorporates desk research, consultations with two returned Chibok girls, Grace Dauda and Amina Ali, and MMF's report. EIE sent Freedom of Information letters to the American University in Nigeria, Yola, the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, the Victim Support Fund, and the Nigerian Army to provide information about the Chibok girls. FBSF is the only institution that has responded to date. However, AUN is currently working with us to verify our data. The Federal Ministry of Women Affairs was allocated over 1 billion naira for the welfare of the Chibok girls and their community over the last decade. We will continue to demand that the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs adheres to the law and provide the requested information. The Bring Back Our Girls Lagos family has also independently written a Freedom of Information letter to the ministry, and there has been no response. Several published articles document the stories of the Chibok girls with similar experiences using the name of one girl as a marker. A richer document will require one-on-one interviews with each Chibok girl, which will require significant resources. This booklet is therefore not comprehensive, and we welcome your feedback. Thank you very much. And so that's the introduction, and I'll just go through the pages and share just a few stories just to give you a sense of what it is that we're using. I do apologize, MMF's logo shouldn't be there, or should have been edited out, but it'll be edited on the document on the website. This is just a sample from 7 years ago to show where we were, the timeline of the different girls and the numbers that we have. Right. So the 57 initial escapees, next page, I'll just show a few of the stories that we had. We'll start with Dinah. Dinah will be joining, well, she did a video, she's 9 hours behind in California. And she said she would try to join, but she did a video. So she's graduated in 2022 from Notre Dame, now a PhD student at the University of Berkeley, one of the most prestigious universities in the world. Mary Katambi, who's number 6 here, is probably the most famous AUN graduate, even though, according to the vice president this morning, AUN has graduated 13 happy students as of 2023, and 11. 11 have graduated from AUN as of last year, and 3 more will graduate this spring. But Mary is the most, most famous one in that sense. And she's planning to launch a startup this year that resells fashion items. Next page. Cordia Simon is also graduated from the US. Sorry, graduated in the US. Joy, next page. Actually, stop. Before we go there, I wanted to just highlight Yagani Yamani's story. She's been interviewed a bit recently. And she talked about the fact that she hadn't, unlike some of her colleagues that got the opportunity to have an education, after waiting 6 years for government support, her mother finally helped her, and she's now studying public health. Next page. Then we have a few awards of the Maurice Howard Foundation, courtesy of an article by Dauda in the Times UK. And then we have a list of the others. Apparently, out of this list, quite a number of them had AUN, which we found out as after this advanced publication. Of the 57 escapees, AUN took in 24 that were funded by an African-American billionaire. And the 24 obviously Mary Katambi was one of them, and some of them will be on this list that we will update with AUN's help. Next page. So this group, the 21 that were negotiated by the Red Cross and the Swiss government in 2016. 21 of them, some of them at AUN, some of them have dropped out for different reasons. Glory is an interesting one. Reason through her colleagues was that she wanted to be close to her parents, and she's now graduated from secondary school. Next page. Rebecca Mallam is a very interesting one, and there's quite a bit of text there, as you can see, about her journey. She suffered injuries due from a blunt blast while they were in Sabisa and had sharp nail in her body. The Nigerian government was unable to give her the care that she needed, and a Good Samaritan funded her care in the US. She got a high school diploma, she enrolled in school, but her visa expired and the US government did not renew it. So she came back to Nigeria, tried to resume an AUN, but time had lapsed and the federal government said they could not continue to fund her education. So she's now lives in Lagos. She's married and she has a son who I met last month. Oh, not this month at the 10 years event we had in Lagos. And Rebecca would like to return to school. And then we have quite a number of them that are students at AUN, Agnes, and Safi Comfort. Next page, please. And some of them, Asabi, I think I mentioned Asabi, so I'll read this footnote that was in a statement issued by the Kibako Development Association. The 4 of them had gotten visas to study abroad, but they were detained at the airport by the SSS, and their flight left, and they missed the opportunity to go abroad. They're all now students, actually, I think, if I'm correct, at AUN. Next, please. So that's a large group of 21. And then in 2017, there was another large group of 82 rather. What's an interesting note about this that the NMF report highlighted that hadn't been known was that there were to be 83 girls released in that batch. But one of them, Saraya Paul, declined to come back for undisclosed reasons, as it was cited. Now, of the 82 girls, one of them is Grace, who I hope will get to listen to, and who was also very instrumental in putting this together as she liaised with colleagues about their stories and their journey. Another highlight from this class of, I guess I call them class of group of 82 rather, is Ladi Ibrahim, who got married after she They came back in 2017. She got married in 2019. So she will be the first Chibok girl acknowledged to have died, but not in captivity. She died after she returned. She reached Chibok. Next page. Well, actually, sorry, and I wanted to read Naomi's one as well, when we were talking about girls that chose not to continue school. And this note says, left school to get married. She has chosen a quieter life and is currently expecting her second child with her husband. Next page. Actually, go back, sorry. This header is also something to note as we talk about it. In a 2020 statement by the Chibok Area Development Association, I think I read that earlier, an umbrella group for the Chibok community, these girls dropped out of school due to government neglect. Go back and then go to the next page, sorry. And these are the girls, Asabe, Laraba, Lydia, Sarah, and Sarai. What? That's the news that we have. Next page. I think just wanted to highlight one other kind of story. I think just to highlight their own account of what happened to that. Senator Stephen, in an interview with CNN, vividly remembers the moment when a field rescue mission Costa at Lim. She mentions that 6 of the girls with her instantly died while she was the sole survivor. Despite these challenges, she remains resolute to pursue a degree in business administration, as she is one of the students at AUN. But these are some of the reports of the girls given an account of what they saw. But the federal government the federal government still refuses to acknowledge their own account of what they saw. And so as a movement, we've continued to count all the numbers, including the ones that they have marked. And especially also because there's been no formal communication with their parents around what has happened to their children. Next page. Yes, and we have some pictures. This was the official government list that we got to see in Dixon's Africa, just to see how the government documented it when this report of girls came back. Next page. Next page. Next page. Next page. That's the list of the issue. So in this section, we looked at those who escaped or rescued. And an interesting thing that I want to highlight for this section is the issue of language. So when the government tends to talk about the military finding or rescuing the girls, but in a lot of their own narratives, they talk about their journeys and then walking up to the military and saying, I am a Chibok girl. And that is basically the finding that the military does. But it's important in terms of just giving ownership and agency to the fact that they did the work of either walking for a month or 5 days or whatever the different story is, of taking themselves out of that situation and that's what happened then. So in this section, we have the story of the different girls. I think Amina, the same way Mary is the most known graduate of AUN, Amina is known because she was the first girl to escape on her own. Next, and she's also a student at AUN at the moment as a single mother. Next page. Several stories. Now, another one that we've talked about those that are with the Borno State government. So as we write with different levels of emotions by the community, Borno State claims they're free to go. The family says not quite, and that hasn't been the experience given. Sort of, and context. These are girls, women who have been fended for in a sense and held quite closely. And so saying that they're free to go home when without in a sense provision for their welfare becomes very difficult when being with a state that gives them a monthly stipend, gives them food, provides a difficult choice to make. That's number one. Number two, the family is also challenged by the fact that the girls, women, I say that deliberately, also have access, the former captors have access to them. And the family is saying they haven't been separated long enough to be able to kind of process what's happened without being in the constant presence. how do you expect them to make a decision in their own interest without that surrounding factor? And at this point, I will give gratitude to the Commissioner of Women Affairs in Borno State, who enough is enough with a freedom of information request that she responded. We've engaged her a few times, and she's invited EIE and the Bring Back Our Girls movement to come in and see the girls in Maiduguri, and we hope to do that shortly. She would have joined, but she's currently out of town and was unable to join. Next week. And then in December last year, some of the girls that were with the Borno State government had gone home for the holidays, and their parents made arrangements for them to go to Jos to pursue a different care alternative arrangements for care. We have incomplete information on our Mary Amos, and then, as we all know, probably about 10, 12 days ago, the assignment was found. She's now in the custody of the Borno State government. Next page. There's a note here about education, just giving credit to AUN for the work that they've done. They've cared for the most number of girls, and so the work that they've done. No other student has been enrolled since the group of 82. There are mixed emotions around the enrollment in AUN being quite an elitist school, and the challenges that some of the girls have had in adapting and also having the kind of right tools to be able to operate in that school. So that's also a discussion point in terms of their welfare. Next page. This is a list of the 90 that are still in captivity, and Saraya Paul, who I mentioned earlier, is noted as having chosen to remain. And then I spoke about Ladi earlier, and the fact that the girls have also talked about their comments. Next page. I think that's all we have. Excellent. So thank you very much for listening. That brings us to the end of the booklet. The link will be shared in the chat box for people to download and look through. As I said at the beginning, far from complete. As you saw, quite a number of the girls who just had their names, and some of the stories were from in the public domain. As I said, public domain, and we help with some of the return girls as well. So we'll go right ahead to panel number one, and at this point hand over to Ms. Okiwale Shonaya, the CEO of Women Radio. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. So today marks 10 years and 15 days that the Chibok girls were stolen and captured from their school of learning. Thank you, Yagi, for organizing this. And today we will be talking about the girls of 10 years ago and the women of now. The first panel of the girls now are Iheoma Obibi, Executive Director, Alliance for Africa. Thank you very much, Alliance for Africa. Hadiza Bala Usman, SC to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on policy coordination. Nena Musugu, Vice President, American University in Nigeria, Yola. And Emmanuel Ogebe, human rights lawyer. So I will need guidance to know who is here so that I can moderate this very well. My name is Tomu Okiwale Shonaya. I work with Women Radio 91.7 in Nigeria. Before I start talking to those who are present here, Emmanuel couldn't join us, but he sent us a video about 5 minutes of his comments and his opinion and his thoughts. Hopefully, we'll be able to show Emmanuel's video at some point in time. Technical issues, but we would fix that. I know that Iheoma is here, so let me start with Iheoma. Iheoma is the Executive Director, Alliance for Africa. Iheoma, I know that you were involved in a petition under CEDAW regulations about the girls. What is the update on this petition?
Okay, so when the girls were abducted from school, I think, like with everybody in Nigeria, we were horrified. And we were far away in the southeast. We didn't know what to do. I think everybody was in panic. The first thing you did as a parent was to look at your child and say, oh my goodness, this could happen to my child. And so with our partners, Rapper, in Nigeria and Equality Now based in New York, we decided that whilst our sisters, the Bring Back Our Girls campaign was head on, we would go through litigation and we would go through a petitioning CEDAW and demonstrating the articles that had been violated by the government of Nigeria's inaction. So what we did was to file a petition. We complained to the CEDAW committee on the optional protocol to the Convention on the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. We cited the systematic failure of the government of Nigeria under Articles 2, rights to equal protection of the law, Article 5, rights to elimination of prejudices against women, right to not to be trafficked, Article 6,
Okay.
rights to education, Article 10, and rights to enter marriage with free will and full consent, Article 16. We filed that petition the 5th of June, 2014. And we never heard anything for 9 years. We never got a comment. We never got an acknowledgement. But however, there were murmurings behind the scenes that particular governments of Nigeria were not keen on having them come in to investigate. And then in October last year, the 24th of October, 2023, we got a formal letter that a confidential visit has been agreed by the government of Nigeria, and that they were coming in to investigate the Boko Haram abduction and kidnapping. And they wanted to speak to victims of the kidnapping, their parents, the village heads, academics who had written about it, those involved in peace building, etc., etc. So it's been a process. They did come into town because I see a number of people on this call who were interviewed by them when they came. It was a 4-member team made up of 2 members of the committee, and Miss Rhoda Reddock and Miss Dahlia, and 2 human rights officers of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Mr. Jakob Schneider and Mr. Marco Zanin. And they went to 4 states. They were residing in Abuja, but they went to Borno to visit and they went to Chibok as well. They went to Kaduna. They went to Enugu. And we got all because the terms had changed from when we originally filed the petition. We persuaded them that they couldn't just see the Chibok and Borno victims, that there were other victims in other parts of Nigeria that were also kidnapped, abducted, trafficked, denied access to education. And so whilst the original petition was for the Chibok Girls, we also said that they couldn't just come and visit Chibok, that they had to look at the wider picture of how it was now normalized. The kidnapping of students for ransom was now an active part of our political sphere. And that is what happened. They were in Nigeria from the 2nd of December to the 17th of December, 2023. We were responsible for organizing all the visitations. I mean, a number of the young girls that Yemi spoke about in her book. I recognize quite a few names because they spoke to them. I recognize quite a few names of those even in America they spoke to. Their families, their aunties, everybody was involved. It was a confidential visit, but however, we did organize a civil society meeting to identify any other area they wanted us to go to. I think I can answer questions as well. You're muted, sis. You're muted.
Thank you very much, Ioma. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm having this conversation with you alone. So you have 20 minutes yeah. So we're going to have this conversation. We're going to engage further. Thank you very much for what you did with other NGOs and other bodies to put up that petition under CEDAW regulation. So where are we with that? I mean, you've told us what we have done, what led to that, how you worked and engaged with other organizations to do that. What else do we need to do? Number one, and where are we? Because we know how the rule of law is in Nigeria. We often see those in positions of authority not complying, as we have seen in the case of the 35% affirmative action. So what exactly, where are we with this? And what do you think we can do?
I will answer the where are we first.
Yeah.
So what has happened is that they interviewed as many people as possible, and they didn't just interview individuals. They interviewed government of the government as well, because that is, remember, we're looking at the protocol and we're looking at the committee. And
Sorry,
so,
when you said they interviewed government, who exactly did they interview, or which arm of the government did they interview?
interviewed the security services.
Okay.
They interviewed the Ministry of Women's Affairs.
Mm.
The government gave them a list of people to speak to, and they spoke to them, even right down to the Attorney General's office. They interviewed and they spoke to everyone. Now, that part of the list, I and Hadia were not privy to. We were privy to the list that we created and that we asked for. So we were responsible for getting everybody else together except the government list. But they did not share our list. Now, when Yemi was speaking, some of what Yemi said resonated with us, because we had Chibok girls that all of a sudden would disappear from the locations. Yes? So, and it happened. We can't deny it happened. It was quite a tricky situation. We had our so-called helpers being threatened. So, on the one hand, the government had invited these people into the country to verify these claims on the various articles. On the other, they didn't want them to speak to the girls concerned.
Mm.
So, there were some girls they were supposed to speak to in Chibok, in Borno, and in Meduguri that vanished into thin air.
Mm-hmm.
And we recognized at the end that it was the so-called chaperones, who of course were government agents who were involved in this disappearing act. In the end, we did speak to some, but not all, as we would have liked. It was a very delicate and dicey situation, because you also had people who knew what was happening but didn't want to go on record.
Okay.
And remember, we were dealing with Oyibo people. So then you had the UN on one hand doing their own, it's unsafe, you go there, they're going to carry go you, blah, 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 blah. So we had a lot of that. So where are we now?
I was also just going to say that, I'm aware that different people have reached out to the government through the Freedom of Information Act and what have you. So you did this petition, and we know how things work where we are. So what are we doing now? Was a petition responded to? Obviously, no.
I'm coming there. Now, how CEDAW works and how the committee, remember, we did not file in Nigeria. We filed direct to Geneva. We filed to the Committee for the Protection Optional Protocol, their committee for CEDAW. We're not involved in whatever the Nigerians are doing. Now, they've come to Nigeria, they've investigated, they are in the middle of writing their report. And because they've verified facts, yes. So our communications with them last week was, where are we? When is the report coming out? And a draft is being prepared. When the draft is prepared, the draft will be sent to the government of Nigeria.
Okay.
Will be sent to us as well
Okay.
for us to respond and clarify any errors.
Mm.
And once everybody has agreed, it becomes a public document.
Mm.
That should be happening within the next 8 weeks.
Okay.
But until then, there's nothing we can do.
Let me ask you, please, let me just ask you, when exactly did you put in this petition?
My sister, we put in this petition. Let me look at the date again on the letter. 5th of June, 2024. And it was I've got it here. It was 8 pages long. 8 pages.
2024. 2024?
No, 2014.
2014.
Yes. And they had received it.
10 years.
No, sis. They had received it. And they began negotiations with the government of Nigeria to come in to verify. And at every step of the way, they were denied. We have to be honest with ourselves.
Mm.
And the only reason they came in this time is that you had a new government that was looking for legitimacy, was looking for, okay, we are a good government, despite how the elections went, we can verify what you see. Look at what we're doing. We're doing.
Yeah, man, let me just quickly interrupt again. So 10 years ago, you put in for this petition, right?
Yes.
10 years ago.
Yes.
And in that 9.5 years, they were not allowed to come in and carry out the work they wanted to carry out. Is that what you're saying?
They were not allowed. No, they have to come in on the acceptance
Invitation of the
on the
government.
invitation of the government of Nigeria. The government of Nigeria denied that.
So when did they come in eventually? When did they come in?
They came in last December 2nd to the 17th, and they had agreed. I think the agreement was at the last committee meeting, which was in about just towards September.
Okay.
And so we got our letter in October 24th. A letter was written to us.
So that is reassuring that at least they came in, that is reassuring they came in. And if I know you and your team very well, you will follow through, because that is what accountability and transparency is about. So we're really looking forward to the outcomes of the report so that we can share this with Nigerians as well. I just want to thank you for what you are doing. But before I let you go, because this conversation is between the two of us now, what else do you feel we can do? What else we're talking about 10 years, the 15-year-olds are now 25, they're 26, they're 27. What else do you think we can do?
I really do believe that we did, at that particular time, we attacked it from all angles. You had sisters on the front line. You had sisters working behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
Doing it the African traditional way, negotiating the space and creating the space for others to enter. Then you had the big brothers working through the African protocols. And then you had those of us who said, okay, you people are doing all of this. Oh yeah, we're going to report you people to CDO. Now, whether we like it or not, even though it has taken 9 years, there is room for maneuver. Because with the report, we go back to the governments to hold them accountable.
Absolutely.
Right now, it's a shame. We don't have a clear list of how many girls were released, not released. We don't know how many have died. There's, even in organizing the visit, we saw the cloak and dagger behavior of the government. And there was no reason for that because a lot of the information is public knowledge.
So, Iyama, I'm going to have to stop there, but I just wanted to say that, I just think we need to come up with a totally different strategy, and I'll tell you why. Women Radio went to Chibok Town, by the way. We were inside Chibok Town, and I work with a fantastic team who are bold, to go into. We went into Chibok Town. We spoke to some of the parents. We spoke to 2-3 of the girls. And, when we say that we need to keep holding the government accountable, I think we need a totally different strategy. And I'll tell you why. The Ministry of Women Affairs has refused to speak. And I'm not just talking about this minister. I'm talking about my friend, Dave Pauline Callen, when she was there. The Ministry of Women Affairs has consistently refused to respond to requests.
Yeah.
I mean, there are allegations of billions, of over $1 billion naira being given to the ministry. Let's know how this money was spent. You know, because the families are saying they haven't seen anything. I mean, there are 3 ministries that we need to be talking to. That's the Ministry of Women Affairs, that's the Ministry of Education, and the Defense Ministry. And it's sad that Hadiza Bala Usman is not here for her to come and talk to us, because she's the one who is overseeing these ministries and keeping them on their monitoring them. So I think there should be a totally different approach, honestly, because holding the government account, we've written to them. We've used the FOI Act to write to them, and there's no response. So I think that is something that we should just, hang on there, and hopefully before we end this conversation today, we will. Thank you very much, Iheoma Obibi. Please don't go away, because we're still going to have further conversations. Thank you. For the second panel, we will be talking about the women now. These are girls that were stolen, they were captured 10 years ago. Some of them were 15, 16. Now they're 25, 26, 27. So we want to look at the women now. And on this panel, I think we have everybody on this panel. Fantastic. I have Habiba Balogun, who is a coordinator, Bring Back Our Girls in Lagos. We also have Alan Manasseh, who is a strategic committee member of a Bring Back Our Girls in Abuja. We have the data woman here, Buki Shonibare, executive director, Invictus Africa, and Aisha Mohammed Oyebodi, the chief executive officer, Morotala Mohammed Foundation, MMF. Let me start with you, Habiba, if you don't mind. You are good to see you, Habiba.
Hi.
You are the coordinator of the Bring Back Our Girls in Lagos. And I know that you've been working on the Chibok Girls Cooperative, right? In as much as I'd like you to talk about any other thing you want to talk about, I'd like you to at least touch on how the Chibok Girls Cooperative, how it has helped the girls, and what's the current status of the cooperative. Over to you, Habiba.
Okay, so hello everybody. I'm one of the coordinators of Lagos, so there are several of us. The cooperative. So what happened is, at this 10th year, as Yemi started doing the research, Morotala Mohammed Foundation's database came out. Buki did hers last year, brought hers out last year. We started thinking, look, these girls are women now, okay? And from what we could see, from hearing from the different stakeholders, because we reached out to all the stakeholders, some of the girls are members of Bring Back Our Girls Lagos. So, and some of the parents too. So we're in touch with them. We're in touch with members of the Chibok community in Abuja, the Kibaku Area Development Association, and other stakeholders. So we said, what can we do? Many of them were like, they're just waiting for decisions to be made from them. We said, what can we do to bring them their own agency? They're women now. They should have some measure of control over the decisions of the direction of their lives. So we engage them. I'm very, very open-minded and say, look, what do you want for yourselves? How can people help you? Because people have been trying to help them for at least 5 years. People have been coming up to us saying, how can we help these girls? How can we help these girls? But there was no direct channel, and they were not ready to go through an indirect channel. And they said, look, we know each other. We're all in groups together. We know what each person needs. We all have different needs. We're all at different stages and so on. This is what we want to do. We want to set up a foundation that we can control, and it can support us. And those who also have kids, support the kids and so on. And then I said, well, how about the foundation? Great. That will take a while. How about in terms of managing the finances? And then they talked about setting up a cooperative. And so we said, look, you have members in Bring Back Our Girls family who can help you do that. So we rallied our members and said, okay, who can help them with the legal registration? Who can help them with a bank account? We reached out. There are many people who are friends of the Chibok Girls and friends of Bring Back Our Girls. You don't even have to be a friend of the movement, right? You're just a humanity, right? You're somebody who values humanity and is ready to inconvenience yourself or put yourself out or invest. So as soon as they decided what they wanted to do, we were able to direct them to the appropriate sources. and they are in the driving seat. So they've set up a cooperative now. They've got a bank account with Sterling Bank, and there are other offers coming in, and they're slowly organizing, and they're being guided, and they're going to be educated along the way in terms of decision making, how to manage conflict amongst themselves, because naturally that will happen, in terms of resource allocation, and so on. So that's where we are now. So they have a bank account. If you want to support the Chibok Girls financially, I'll post it in the chat. You can send the money directly to them, and they're going to be managing it themselves. They're still in the process of organizing. And eventually they want to set up a foundation that will help them, help their families, help their communities, help their descendants going forward. So that's the current status report.
Thank you very much, Habiba. Thank you. It's for me, it's really good to hear that the girls are in charge. They're empowered to manage this themselves. And I think we need to commend you and your team for ensuring that, they're not relying on anybody and they're independent. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Let me come to Alan. Alan, are you here? Manasseh. Alan is the strategic committee member of Bring Back Our Girls in Abuja. Alan, let me know if you're here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We always love to see men supporting initiatives like this. Thank you very much. Okay. So what's the state of the girls now? 10 years after, what's the state of the women? And maybe I should be asking, what is the state of the women now, 10 years after?
Well, when we talk about the state of the women, we can only talk about the state of those that we could see, those that have been rescued, or those that must have escaped. We cannot talk about the status of those that are still missing. And I think that is the most important demand for us as a movement, as a community, and as a people. Because of the ones that have been rescued, as we've seen on the presentation by Amy, we've seen some that are still in school. We've seen some that have graduated. We've seen others that have dropped out, and even those that have died after being rescued or escaped. So we have to treat it differently. But for me, as much as we have some certain level of success stories, it's not up to what we can say it's already a settled matter, because we still have quite a number of girls missing. We have even those that have been rescued and sent to school dropping out. We still have a lot of even those in school complaining. We have also those that have been rescued or escaped that we can't even say exactly what their state of mind is, because family are saying different things, government are saying different things. And that is why I love what Ihioma Obidi just said when she said their committee went out and the government refused them access or refused other people from talking to them. And that is what the Bring Back Our Girls movement has been talking about from day one. Coordination, transparency, openness, accountability. Had it been that from day one, we have a desk of authority being delegated to coordinate and to supervise, to liaise with what the Bring Back Our Girls movements are doing, and all other organizations, be it non-governmental or governmental, that were struggling for everything about Chibok, we would have been speaking with authority about data, about facts, knowing exactly how we can be accountable or being accountable about the location of every girl or woman, as the case may be. So as it is now, I can only talk about those from my immediate family, my cousins or my nieces that I can reach out to. Because as a community leader, as a media director of the community who advocated for setting up of the immediate decks, crisis management decks in Chibok from day one, to begin to supply information to people that are advocating for the Chibok girls, even before the first protest of my community in Abuja, before 15 days after the Bring Back Our Girls was formed, we wouldn't have been talking about what we are talking today. But 10 years down the line, we still have problem with communicating to even the girls that have been rescued. I have a community where we said, okay, since the list of the Chibok girls from day one was handwritten to the president, and police were bringing 44 names, DSS were bringing different figure, soldiers were bringing different figure. We said, okay, now what we need to do is let's set up the cadre is a pan organization of the Chibok people. The parents are part of it. Those in government are part of it. We ordinary citizens or active community leaders are part of it. Let us have a coordinating office where is a one-stop call for anybody coming to Chibok to have access to the parents, have access to the girls that were rescued, or girls that even escaped, climbed the walls of the school and escaped the night of the attack. Because if you check the register of that school, we had over 530 people. 530 students that registered in that school. So we have issues with openness, transparency, accountability, and then above all, credible data that people can rely on and work with.
Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you very much, Alan. I hope when I come back to you, you will be able to just highlight one or two things of about what the status is with some of the girls we have that have returned that we have, because we're now talking about the women. We're no longer talking about 10 years ago. Yes, we want the girls returned, but we want to really know what is happening to the women now. So I'll come back to you. Buki Shonibare is the executive director of Invictus Africa. And Buki, I know you're very hot. You're very good. You're, on data. We all rely on the data that you churn out for us at Invictus Africa. Is Buki here? I want to be sure Buki is here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Buki. Thank you. And, we appreciate and commend the good work you're doing in terms of data. You've heard everybody spoken about, we're not even sure, how many girls are, out, how many girls we still need to find. Where are they? Data is a big issue for us in Nigeria, in Africa. And again, we're very proud of what you are doing with Invictus Africa on data. I know that you are very keen on safe school initiatives, right? Because almost every month we hear of students in secondary schools being kidnapped in Nigeria. It's now, sometimes you hear the news, you're not even sure whether is valid. It seems like we're just watching Nollywood. It seems like, we know that life doesn't seem to have any value in Nigeria. And I'm not really talking about a particular government. It's been from one government to the other, to the other, to the other. It seems like, the lives of our future, the young ones, are not really important. So I want to know what, in terms of safe school, what is it that we're not learning? I don't want to say what are we doing or what you're doing. What is it that we're not learning? Why are we still finding ourselves in this situation? What are we not learning in Nigeria from your safe school initiatives? Thank you, Buki.
Thank you very much. Can I speak without the mic?
I'm sure you can speak without the microphone. We can hear you loud and clear. Thank you. Thank you.
Can you hear me now without the
We
mic?
can hear you loud and clear. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so maybe you can switch off the speaker. All right. Thank you so much. So in relation to safe school, permit me to quickly say something regarding what Alan had said and what Auntie Tomo has said regarding Auntie Tomo. I always say that you are our big supporter at Invictus Africa. In relation to data, I think one thing we must not miss out is the fact that behind every number that we miss out, behind every number that is inaccurate, is a human life. Is a human life that is potentially not being prioritized. If you remember when the abduction of the 287 happened, the abduction that took place on March 7 of 2024, which happened at LEA Primary and Government Secondary School in Kuriga. If you recall, when the report was eventually released, we were told that 137 children were actually taken. But at the beginning, when that abduction took place, we were told that 287 were actually taken. So that means that we can't talk about 150 because the government came out to say that, oh no, that is 137 people that were abducted. And so if parents are not coming out to say our children have been abducted, then we are not validating that extra 150 that the government said that were not among those that were abducted. The implication of we not having the accurate data is that behind each number are human lives that will potentially not be prioritizing. And so I'm really concerned that 10 years on, the media, the government, civil society organizations release different numbers. And you can't blame civil society organizations, especially because the primary responsibility of ensuring that we have accurate data on the number of children that have been taken, it's why we advocated for the missing persons register. That primary responsibility rests on the government. Civil society can only support. So it's scary that 10 years on, we still cannot talk about the exact number of Chibok girls that are still missing. And that for me is something that I think we must really highlight. But back to the question that you asked regarding Safe School initiative. Let me take us back a bit to the Safe School Declaration. Post the Chibok abduction, there was the Safe School Declaration, which was an international commitment to ensure that education is protected from attacks and to also make sure that, school facilities are not used for military purposes. That's a principle under international humanitarian law that says that civilian objects such as schools, markets, churches, cultural centers should not at any time be occupied by either of the warring parties. And by warring parties, we are referring in this case to the government on the one hand and the insurgents on the other hand. But what have we seen? Both the government and the insurgents have occupied schools. Now, under the principle of IHL that relates to the non-occupation of civilian objects, once that particular object, in this case school, have been occupied, it makes that school targetable. And so every attack that we have seen on education, on educational facilities, is something that we must put where the responsibility lies, which is the government. Insurgents don't understand international humanitarian law. They don't respect international humanitarian law, but every government does. Now, as a result of that, we believe that it was necessary for us to have a protection of schools, a principle or a law or a policy that guides protection of school in non-international armed conflict, as in the case that led to the abduction of the Chibok girls. So the Nigerian government became signatory to the Safe School Declaration and, signed up to that political commitment. It's not just Nigeria, several other countries. The Safe School Declaration, the Nigerian government came up with what it calls the Safe School Initiative. The Safe School Initiative, if you recall, Nigerian businessmen, philanthropists. I remember during the event, Aliko Dangote was there. I think Femi Otedola was there. There were lots of Nigerian business owners who came together and who made pledges. Over $10 million was pledged at that event and after that event to ensure that the high-risk areas, Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa, they are protected. And not just that when there is any attack or there is any potential attack on schools, that they will relocate the children somewhere else. One thing that we have seen after that was that there was a mapping of schools such that over 80,000 schools were mapped as high risk. The essence of the Safe School Initiative is to make sure that those 80,000 are like the model where Nigerian government is supposed to set up a minimum standard of security and safety of schools. We have not seen anything like that. Like Yemi rightly said when she was making her initial report, the mapping that Invictus Africa did, where we mapped all the abductions that have happened between 2014 and now. And what we have seen is primary, secondary, and Islamia schools. We've seen at least 20 incidents of abductions. And in that 20 incidents of abductions, we've seen at least 1,754 school children abducted. If we expand that to tertiary institutions, we are talking about at least 38 abductions and almost 2,000 school children that have been abducted. It tells you one thing: safe school declaration, safe school initiative is not working. We are not seeing anything. We don't have any metric to measure that, okay, anything like this is working. 1, 2. We don't have any model school that we can point to, that we can say that because Chibok happened, and because we became signatory to the Safe School Declaration, and because we came up with the Safe School Initiative, we can point to certain schools to say these schools have met the minimum standard of security and safety of schools, that meets that declaration. I must also remind us that sometime in 2021, the Nigerian government also came up with a national policy on safety, security, and violence-free schools. It aims to ensure that there is improvement in school security, strengthening of the capabilities of the security agents that either man within the schools or outside the schools. We have all of these policies. We have the declaration. We have the initiative. Monies were pledged, but schools are still unsafe. Because if we have that number of school-based abductions, and we have that number of school children that are still being abducted, it tells you that schools are not being saved. And this is an opportunity for us to get back on the table to make sure that we push the federal government of Nigeria and the state government. Don't forget that nursery, primary, Islamia, they are under the purview of the state government. So make sure that they also, meet up with this minimum standard so that our schools can be safe. Most importantly, in closing my thoughts, all the monies that were pledged, Safe School Declaration, we've talked about at least 144.8 billion naira has been pledged for this purpose, has been allocated for this purpose. No accountability in that regard. And until we get to that point where the nation can account for that money, what the money was used for, what it was used to achieve, if any, then we cannot move forward in relation to Safe School Declaration as well as the Safe School Initiative. Thank you.
Bukola, I want to quickly just do a follow-up on what you just said. So what I'm seeing here, what I'm seeing here is not just the government when it comes to accountability, because oftentimes we're looking at, the presidency, the state governors, the local government, we should hold ourselves accountable as NGOs, CSOs, media, and the private sector. You mentioned names of individuals, billionaires that were there and they pledged. Did they actually make their payment? Because it's one thing to pledge. We love to come to the public space and make pledges. Did they deliver on their pledges? That's number one. You said that we need to follow the money. Yes, we need to follow the money. But how much had actually been released from all these pledges? So the accountability is not just government. So I'm saying that we also need to follow up on the private sector that were there on the day who made these pledges. And for us to say that Nigeria signed up, to this, and we signed up to the Safe School Declaration, and we're not taking it seriously. It is an indictment on all of us. And again, I want to thank you and others who are following up on this. But we need to know who were the people that made the pledges and what have they paid and what has happened to the money.
Let me say something on that,
Yes.
The primary duty to make sure that there is accountability
is the government.
Civil society, individuals, the public can only support.
Yeah.
And even when we started calling for accountability long even before the 10th year anniversary. And the accountability entails, one, how much was pledged. There's no how we'll talk about how much was pledged that we'll not talk about who pledged what and how much was pledged by who. And in that regard, the government can say, okay, $10 gave this, he pledged this, he gave this. Dangote pledged this, he gave this. Even international donors were at the event, and they also made pledges. So they also gave this. Nigerian government also, added this to the purse. This was the money that was collected all together. And from that money, we built this school. We renovated this school, we set up. That is the accountability we have been expecting and calling for.
Do we know the people? Do we know members of the committee?
And so you're muted. I think you're trying to say something.
No, I'm actually not muted. Maybe my audio. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I'm saying, do we know the committee? We have 15, I think they said we have 15 more minutes. Thank you. Do we know the committee, the members of the committee that were there? Who were the people that made up the committee of that fund, of that money? Do we know?
I don't, but I'm sure that by the time we ask, around, we will be able to get.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me just quickly go to, before I call on Aisha Mohammed Oyebode, I just quickly need to mention that, where is it? Yes. If anybody wants to donate to the Chibok School Girls, we're very proud of what the BBOG has done in getting the girls to set up a cooperative, and the girls are independently managing the cooperative. Now, if as a Nigerian you want to help the girls, they have their own bank account, Sterling Bank. Account number is 009795000. I'm sure that the EIE will put up a flyer, and thank you very much. And this can be shared to everybody. For those of us who are here, please let us donate, no matter how tiny. And you know how we are in Nigeria. We love to support. And these are girls who, thank you very much, Yakubu. Also help us. We need the media. We need the media to pick up this flyer and help us publish it, put it on your TV stations, let it scroll, put it run it on radio stations, run it on social media. Let us support these girls. And if you need to email them, it's schoolchibokgirls@gmail.com. schoolchibokgirls@gmail.com. But the good thing that you have done, the good thing you have done as a BBOG is to ensure that these girls run this bank account themselves. Sterling Bank again, 009795000 is a bank account, and we should support the girls. I now want to take on Aisha Oyebade. Aisha, you're here?
Yes, I am.
Thank you very much. Aisha Mohammed Oyebode is the CEO Murtala Mohammed Foundation. Aisha Mohammed Oyebode. Aisha documented the stolen daughters of Chibok. I remember the book, you documented that, where you looked at the impact of the abduction of the Nigerian schoolgirls. I think it was the 9th anniversary that you documented that. Well done for that, sister. Thank you very much. We're very grateful for your support. Now, one of the girls said she'd rather be in Sambisa, right? Now, we also interviewed, Women Radio also interviewed some of the girls, and one of them said, it's even better for me to be back there. It's a very weighty comment, you see, because if somebody has been kidnapped, right, and you have been released, and you're saying you'd rather go back to your captors, does it mean, are you telling us it's safer in Sambisa? Does it mean that you're not, thank you very much, does it mean that you're not intimidated in Sambisa? Because one of the girls told us that they call her Boko Haram wife. That's what they call her, Boko Haram wife, and they kind of excluded them. So this is a very weighty comment. And in that, I just want to hear your thoughts on what you have been doing. I'm aware you also work in Maiduguri. I'm aware of all the work you've been doing. Let's talk about the girls, the women now, 10 years after, the women now. What is the situation? What are you doing? Where are the girls? What is the government doing? What is happening in Maiduguri? What are we doing as a people? Thank you, Aisha.
Thank you so much, sis, for that. So let me just, very quickly start by saying we started tracking the Chibok Girls in 2015. And the reason why we started doing that is what everybody has talked about here. Buki has talked about it. Habiba has talked about it. Ihoma has talked about it. And it's the basis for this report that Yemi is putting out, is this culture of impunity and the fact that we still refuse to understand the weighty issues that are behind this situation. Chibok is one of the most complex issues that not only Nigeria will deal with, but the world is going to have to deal with. We're dealing with the issue of children girls who were abducted as children. So if you imagine that a girl was abducted at 13, and I see Amina Ali here, Amina was actually one of the youngest. She was abducted at 13. And you imagine that at 13, the first 3 years, she doesn't know anything, this young girl. 10 years, she spent another 10 years. I'm talking about the ones who have just been released. Spent half her life with insurgents. I mean, you are going to have a very, very complex situation when they come back. Nigeria does not have a post-abduction protocol. We do not know what to do with girls when they come back. We do not know what to do with their families. And the issues are really weighty. The first issue is around consent. Why do we have laws around statutory rape? Statutory rape means that if you have sexual relations with a girl that does not, with below the age of consent, is statutory rape, which means that girls who were abducted from the ages of 13, and up to 16, even 18, because, the age of consent in Nigeria is not clear. It means that those girls were statutorily raped. So what happens with those marriages that have been consummated in abduction, right? They've come back and the state government is talking about marriage. How do you talk about marriage when there's no consent? One. Two, under international law, and they realized that because it used to happen a lot in conflicts in Cambodia, in Sierra Leone, all of those major conflicts, that forced marriage in conflict is a problem. And that is because it actually goes beyond not just the rape. What they say is that the abductor has now put their stamp on that woman. That is why you have girls afraid to come back, because, they've now been, whatever it is that has been done to them illegally has been cloaked under marriage. So they're afraid to come back because they're afraid of the stigma. You understand what I'm saying? The person has actually put their imprint on them. And then, that was the reason why in Sierra Leone, the United Nations declared forced marriage in conflict as a crime against humanity. Girls have come back. Laws are being broken all over the place. And we don't seem to have any rules, any understanding of how we're going to, unravel this complexity. Then you have problems, with parents, because these are parents whose children were taken under their care. These children were young. They had no agency at that time. Most of them were 13, 14, 15, taken away from 2 to 5 to 7 to whatever number of years. They've come back, and we are not acknowledging that these parents are going to be in a state of turmoil. We're not acknowledging the fact that there are issues that we need to face, as a nation, and we need to confront. So for me, I think the greatest challenge, because when we're talking about where we are now, is we need to start talking about this whole culture of impunity. The fact that we still don't have a protocol, the fact that we don't have a process for justice and accountability. Mr. Allen said it. How did we manage that there should have been almost 500 girls in Chibok? Everybody knew Boko Haram was burning schools, they were killing students. Buninyadi had happened a month and a half before, right? And when Buninyadi happened, they killed 59 boys, they locked away the girls and said, go home, school is not a place for girls. Who lost that memo? Why has nobody been prosecuted since Chibok? Why is nobody being prosecuted even now? He referred to a problem we have, the problem of numbers. So terrorists come into a school, they take 280 girls. We tell them they only took 130. What do you think is going to happen to the remaining that we didn't account for? So these girls become invisible, or these children become invisible. We're not accounting for them. They are not accounting for them. So they literally falling through the cracks. So the issues around Chibok are just so complex. And so when we're talking about where we are now, we need to start thinking about how we're going to unravel the complexity. And let me leave us with one more thought. Because when we're talking about the Chibok girls, we always say it's a metaphor for all the other women and girls that were abducted by Boko Haram. We now know for a fact that at least one of the Chibok girls was used as a female suicide bomber. It was one of the frightening things we were also afraid of. Well, let me leave everybody with the thought that Beyond Chibok, in the entire history of the world, Boko Haram has used more women and girls as suicide bombers. We have girls as young as 7. In 10 years, the Tamil Tigers used about 60. In 7 years, Boko Haram has used almost 300. So I just thought it's important for me to leave us with that thought. We need to understand that if we do not unravel the complexity of Chibok, we're going to continue to have these kind of situations. What final thought? Beyond the Northeast, we know that the insurgents have moved to the Northwest. We're now seeing attacks almost every day. And when we're not talking about school abductions now, we're seeing attacks where children are lined up and shot, and their parents are asked to carry them on their back into their communities. Communities are being attacked and children are being thrown into open flames. I think I'd just like to stop at that point.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, as I said at the beginning, today marks 10 years and 15 days that the Chibok girls were stolen and captured from their school of learning. 3 governments have come, and we are still searching. Well, I'm glad, like if Ihoma mentioned, that this administration, Tinubu, has allowed petition to kick in, and hopefully we would have a report of that. Culture of impunity must be condemned in Nigeria. We must continue to demand and ask questions to unravel the complexity of the Chibok girls. I'd like to thank all the speakers of this panel, Habibat Balogun, Allen Manasseh, Buki Shonibare, and Aisha Mohammed Oyebode. Thank you all for your contributions. Please don't forget the bank account to support the girls. And once again, I'd like to say thank you to EIE for organizing this. My name is Tom Okiwale Shonaya. Have a good afternoon.
Because home is where they belong. Bring our girls back.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry I could not join you live, but I hope this short video contributes to the discussion you intend to have today. Before I jump right in, I would like to quickly introduce myself. My name is Dinah Lawan, and I was one of the kidnapped Chibok girls in 2014. After the kidnapping, honestly, I completely gave up on education because what happened to me and my classmates in that night was very difficult in so many ways. I know we were kidnapped in school, girls getting an education. But education is not the only thing that was taken away from us in that night. So many things. Happy children were taken away from their families and loved ones. Our childhood was taken away from us. We established this unbreakable bond, this friendship, sisterhood, and all of those things were taken away from us. Education became my worst enemy. Really, I hated education at the time. But after a while, I came to the realization that if I allow myself to be discouraged by what happened, then I would give those Boko Haram the power they sought, right? So I decided to go back to school again. I finished high school in 2017. And after that, I started university right away. And I finished my college degree from the University of Notre Dame in 2022. After that, I decided to pursue a PhD in political science, where I specifically study the Boko Haram violence, peace building and development. And I know getting to where I am has been a long journey. I can't lie. The struggles, there have been real struggles. However, I think what has made this journey easier and successful, it's been surrounded by people who believe in me and want nothing more than for me to succeed. Really. I mean, at the University of Notre Dame, and now the University of California, my professors, each and every one, from these universities have played a significant role in my success, and I will forever be grateful. Really. This is why I want all my classmates to keep fighting and never give up. Right. One of the lessons I have learned from my journey is that when unpleasant circumstances occur, things can never be the same. But life has to go on. You have to accept that, right? But in order to do that, I think we need people along the way who can help us get through those difficult moments. I know there has been a lot of support for the Chibok Girls, but sometimes people exploit this for their own advantage. Honestly speaking, often resources fall into the wrong hands, leaving the victims and their families to continue struggling emotionally, physically, and mentally. And I think one thing I realize is that sometimes we actually fail to recognize the specific needs of these girls, of us. Right. I know education it's very powerful, but it must begin with healing the emotional trauma these girls suffered in that forest. Honestly, I'm surprised that no program has yet been established in Chibok to help these girls heal from their trauma. There are a number of factors to consider for sure when thinking about supporting healing these girls. And where we often, I understand in rural areas, we often cope with circumstances without therapy or similar support. Totally understandable. But I think that talking to someone about what you have gone through can still make a significant difference, right? So I hope that's something to take into consideration. Honestly, I know I don't have enough time. I have a lot to say, but I don't have enough time. But before I conclude this, on behalf of the parents whose daughters are still missing and the entire Chibok community, I beg the Nigerian government to please, and the global community as well to focus on two things, right? First, I know they have the power. They really have the power. Rescuing these girls, it's well within their abilities. So please rescue every missing girl who is still alive and bring them home. We love them. We still miss them. We are still missing them. Please bring them home. And second, I hope the Nigerian government can act now to restore hope and justice, really, for every affected victim and family by establishing a support and healing program in the Chibok land. Thank you.
That was Dinah Lawan, so a PhD student at UC Berkeley. And now we'll hear from Grace Dauda, who is safe at home. Go ahead, Grace.
Because home is where they belong. Bring others back.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Grace Dauda. I am one of the 82 released Chibok girls on May 2017. Back then, 4 years ago, I and my fellow schoolmates were sleeping, and all of a sudden we heard gun shooting and all of that. Before we noticed, they asked us to enter cars, they parked us to the forest. So after on the very day, I sustained fracture on my left thigh, 2 places. So I thought they are going to drop me, like going to throw me away, but they were like, no, we are taking you. So they give me injection on the way, and we were taken to the forest. There, like, we're receiving treatment. There was raining, there was no room. Water has been, rushing, like, flooding under me. My schoolmates took me as their child, taking care of me. And, they are doing their very best to make sure, I healed. So I spent 3 horrible years in the captivity. So after gaining my freedom, and I say that, thank God, I have sorry.
Go ahead, Grace. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so after I got my freedom, when we came back, I was still struggling with my leg. I had 3 surgery in Nigeria, and up to now my leg was still disturbing, and I had to travel. Like, I got opportunity to travel to US and had my 4th surgery. So after the surgery, I now started schooling, like, while receiving the treatment. I wrote GED and got admission into Bronx Community College, but the visa was about to expire, and I have to come back to Nigeria. After coming to Nigeria, the story don't change. And it's not just me, but for my schoolmates, I feel like many people are just using us for their own interest, because we suffered a lot, and we did not get the help that we wanted, because some, like, the trauma has affected have affected us in so many ways. We are supposed to have some treatment, and some people may feel like it's going to be hard for me to start up education again and catch up. So some people will feel like, I will push it, I will get it, and I will have to graduate as like other people. So, like, for me, like, I want the government to help those that feel like they will not go to the school, or they don't want to go to school anymore, like, to help them with some business or something. But they don't care. I feel like they don't care, because if you say you don't want to go to school, they will just leave you like that, because they have to think well that we have gone through traumas, that we need to be pampered. Like, it's not like pampered like a baby, but we have gone through a lot. So we really need support. Because, like, for example, I decide I don't want to go to school again, it doesn't mean I am okay. Something might affect me, or I might think otherwise, like, I think I might not make it or something. And again, for some of the girls saying, I don't want to stay here anymore, I want to go back. I can say it's for so many reasons. Because, for example, now you got your freedom and you do not get treated. You are not being treated well. And again, you are like, there is so much bullying. People will say, like, especially those that came with children, they'll call their children with names. The trauma is so much. That's why some people feel like it's better I go back, because I don't feel people love me anymore. So after that, I would love to talk about our foundation. So I feel so good, and I'm very excited to know that we have something going. When we escape, definitely we are not even thinking of foundation or thinking of doing something of our own. But now that we have foundation, we are going to, we have all of the team control. We have our email. I am one of the coordinators. If you want to email us, you can send an email to anybody. Like, if you send email to to Chibok Girls, it can't be only me, but somebody can reply. So, and again, those that are in captivities, there are some that lost their life. And again, here, there is one of us that lost her life. So when, like, after this thing, like setting off the foundation finish and everything is going well, we'll make sure that either the one that are still in the captivities, the one that lost their life, will, have the opportunity to, get the benefit. Either like you lose your child, or give that a person's benefits to the family or to their siblings. So, and we know each other very well. Like right now, if you give me the list, I can describe everybody to you. So now, like, we know each other and we cannot cheat it on each other. So I feel so good that we have something that we can control. And when we get the opportunity, those that, stop going to school will have to establish business, like if we got like financial support, and if like something like iPad and everything, like if you have a child, your child can study inside and something like that. So I'm so grateful and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Grace, for sharing and for explaining so many different perspectives. Thank you. So, Yemi, I can see that you're speaking, but we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
All right, much better. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Grace. I'm really glad you could join and you could talk about the foundation yourself. Thank you. We're 15 minutes over, but to be honest, I know people will have to drop off, but at least we've heard from the girls, we've heard about the foundation, and thank you for those who have joined. Mr. There's a Premium Times journalist that had your hand up. Just in case you wanted to ask Grace a question, I'll have you go first, and then we'll end with the Manuel's video. Actually, Nena is here from the American University, AU and ULA. She said she would speak briefly before she needed to go back to join her meeting. If we can find her, Nena, if you can turn on your video, then it'll be easy to find you because I think you're using fantastic. Awesome. Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. Welcome, Bring Back Our Wealth Community, Lagos. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you, Yemi, for insisting that I had to, be here and say my own few words. I appreciate everyone on the call. I appreciate our beautiful ladies that gave their stories. Your stories are that of courage, resilience, and reminding us that these stories are real. The girls are not just a statistic. They are human beings that have feelings, emotions, loved ones. At AUN, we've seen transformation. We've seen transformation of these girls for the last 10 years. We've seen a few, they came in, most of them couldn't speak English, but now we've seen some of them graduate, go for their masters. I'm truly happy to be part of this story. I'm truly happy to be part of this story. And we'll continue to encourage all of us, especially we, the women on this call, to be a voice for the women out there, to keep encouraging them. Just before the call, I called Yemi and we just discussed generally on the fact that we still have these abductions going on, not just only for the Chibok, but all across the country. We still have them, and we don't have the kind of publicity that the Chibok story has had. But it is on all of us. Security is on all of us. Encouraging the girls is on all of us. Encouraging the next generation is also on all of us. And that will just be my few words. I'll be running off now. Thank you so much, everyone that has made this possible. Thank you.
Much, Nana, for joining us. Really appreciate it. And thank you. And as I said at the beginning, when we were talking about the booklet, American University in Nigeria has cared for the most number of girls than any other institution. And for that, there's certainly, you're doing your flowers. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Let's see. Oh, Paul Gadzama has his hands up. Oh, this is wonderful. Paul and Rebecca Gadzama run a nonprofit called Education Must Continue. And they and MMF are the two organizations that have supported the girls in the UK, in addition, to Emmanuel Ogebi as well. They've supported the girls in the US. So please, can we unmute? The video is on. So can you go ahead, Mr. Paul, and unmute yourself? Fantastic.
All right. Thank you very much for the opportunity to make a little contribution. Because of time, I'll just add to what Aisha of MMF emphasized. Specifically, she pointed out that there is a total absence of any plan, any structure, any arrangement, any serious program for those that have returned from captivity. Not just for the Chibok girls now, but for all the other cases. Because it's happening all over, maybe you may think that is overwhelming to government, but unfortunately, I believe government, due to either negligence or by commission, have failed to provide the necessary structure and program. What is happening to those that have escaped? Most of the girls that are in Maiduguri under the Borno State care actually escaped, as you rightly started mentioning, use of language. They escaped and then found themselves with the military, and then the story changed that they have been rescued. Okay, anyway, that aside, what happens to those ladies in Maiduguri will influence the rescue or the release of the remaining 90 girls in Sambisa. Well, 90, taking into account several that have already died. Many of them have died. That's a different story also. Because the government is telling us now, part of the reason that some of the girls are not coming out or don't want to come out from the forest is because they want to remain with their so-called Boko Haram captors. And they shouldn't be separated. That's a major, major problem. And there's a lot of contradiction in that story. It also gives a clue that the government knows what is happening inside the forest, to be negotiating with the girls and their husbands and giving conditions to come out or not to come out. So as Dinah rightly said, it is within the powers of government to rescue the remaining girls or to get them released. I believe, given the military and the right resources and the freedom to do the job, honestly, Nigerian military can get these girls within 1 week. Within 1 week, they can get these girls out. But the politicians will not allow us. They will not allow that because they have their agenda, and those agenda needs to be addressed. Yes, there are many conspiracy theories. Those conspiracy theories need to be addressed, need to be interrogated, and the truth revealed. Otherwise, we'll just be going in circles. So for those girls in Maiduguri, for example, there is so much secrecy and lack of transparency of what is happening to them. Unfortunately, information gets out one way or the other. When they came out, the way they were treated, the way they were handled, in the first place, they were kept together in the same camp for the first time, together with so-called Boko Haram, repentant Boko Haram. They were mingling together, and those were the only community those girls knew. After that, the girls, some of them got tired, or the so-called they sent them for Christmas and came back. And then later on, they were given a different place. There's a story that is hidden, but it went out. Some journalists were able to crack it. Those girls, when they were returned to a particular accommodation in that Bulunkutu in Maiduguri, were visited by these Boko Haram boys and beaten up. One of them was beaten up to pulp, that she was even admitted in hospital. They are keeping quiet and hushing up about those kind of arrangements. Then they prepare the environment for this story to be coming out that, hey, the girls say if it is not their husbands from the forest, they will not agree, that they have their own choice, that they are adults now, they are making their decision. Let the CSOs do an investigation and find out, really. Let the government give opportunity to the journalists to interview these girls. You'll be surprised to hear what is happening. And some of the things are blatant lies. These girls did not, many of them did not marry the girl, are not married currently to the Boko Haram they were married to in the forest. They married afresh. Boko Haram guys from the same camp. They were joined together. So, with this kind of arrangement, with this kind of program, there's no way, there's no excitement of even getting the girls back.
Indeed.
And then when you talk about the parents, the parents, what is happening to the parents? Some of them are dying as paupers back there in the village. Some of them are being harassed by telephone calls from their so-called son-in-laws from the forest. Nothing is happening to them. So I think the CSOs and advocates have a big duty to put it on the government, if it means litigation, to let the government really come out clean and really face the truth about what is happening. Because if those in Maiduguri
to respond to that a bit earlier, just to make sure we're being fair, she would have joined if she was in town. But the Borno State government, through the Commission on Women Affairs, has offered that we can come and see the girls and have that conversation. So I wanted that on record, especially for the journalists, so they don't leave otherwise. She's engaged and she said she's happy to bring back her girls, the parents come in. So it's not exactly as you said. So it's not they said, we heard that. It's more like you're here, you can listen to the girls directly. And I think that's, to your point, a very important meeting that needs to happen sooner rather than later.
Yes.
And then the parents, just to echo what Grace is saying in the chat as well, and I'll read it. She says, you can't make good decisions when your mind is not mentally stable. And in the narrative, we tend to talk about psychosocial support for the parent, for the girls when they come back. And we underestimate the need for psychosocial support for the parents. And that's why Mr. Gazama is making the point. Because context, your 15-year-old girl goes away, comes back a 26-year-old woman, possibly with a different religion than what she left with. There are issues there, and there are issues that...
You've lost your audio.
We will need to take...
Okay, got it.
Then finally close out. That'll be the last... before we do that, sorry, Mr. Yakubu Mohammed from Premium Time, you've had your hand up for a long time. So let's take your question, especially since it might concern someone that needs to drop off. And then we would then need to close out. You can unmute yourself and go ahead, please.
I must commend the video doing wonders, since I will not call them girls, since these ladies are resilient for starting up again. Quickly, please, I would like to talk to Dinah. Dinah, while speaking, said she had authored a research. I would like to have access to that work. That is only Mrs. Shonubara that they will be meeting some of the guests in during the day it marks exactly 10 years. That Sunday, and all our girls that was there, didn't speak to her, but actually some of the parents really not okay with what the government. Because I work on desk, I'll be glad to get that aspect. So I've also messaged Madam and Mr. Paul Gazam not to neglect. We need to find this is not what I should be discussing here, but everybody in the movement to girls that are in the American University. A lady spoke from the school. I would also like to spoke to some of the Chibok girls I had spoken to AUN and take us to the fact.
Sorry, talking about the people you'd like to follow up with. And if that's the case, we can take that offline. If you don't have direct questions to anybody on the call or any issue in the room, so we can close this out, please. Thank you. So let's follow up. I mean, either via email or in the chat to myself or any of the EIE team. We'll be happy to follow up. Thank you. If the team can then play Emmanuel's video so we can close this out, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Emmanuel Ogebe. I'm speaking from Washington, D.C. On this 10th anniversary of the Chibok abductions, it's a privilege to be able to speak briefly on the origin story of the American education of the Chibok Girls. So let me start first by saying that today in the U.S., there are Chibok Girls in many states. There are Chibok Girls in California, in Texas, in Maine, in Pennsylvania, in New York. So literally across the United States in multiple locations. It all started out in 2013. In 2013, I brought a girl from Chibok, not from the school, but from the village. She was the orphan of a pastor who had been murdered on Christmas Eve in Maiduguri. And she was invited to the U.S. by children, orphans of the 9/11 terrorist attack, for a summer camp for victims of terror. And while she was here, someone asked me to apply for a scholarship for her to attend school here. And I said, look, there's no point doing that. She's going back to Nigeria tomorrow. And the person said, look, apply to this school. So she left for Nigeria the following day. And I just applied just like that, thinking like, this is not going to happen. And would you believe it? In less than a month, she got admission and a scholarship. This was a girl who had been denied a visa 2 times by the U.S. Embassy. And now she had a full scholarship to come to the U.S. The following year, I was visiting Nigeria when, I was told that her cousin had been abducted in their village with several hundred other girls. So I had heard about Chibok before the Chibok abductions happened. And so I was touched, obviously, by this catastrophe because I already had a connection to that community through the first girl I brought to the U.S. I came to Nigeria with a congressional delegation from the Human Rights Committee of Congress, and we met with a team of parents and an escaped Chibok schoolgirl. After that first meeting, we flew back to the U.S. and they went back to the Northeast. And at some point, I said to myself, look, I already put one girl in school in the U.S. What can one, these 3 in school in the U.S.? Now, incidentally, at some point, I had met with the president of Nigeria. I had suggested that he should establish a victim support fund to cater for it, and worked with the first 3 girls. Then we went up to 5 based on the limited resources available. After the success with 5 girls, we ramped up. And by the end of 2014, we had brought in 11 girls to school in the US. Now, in 2015, I got admissions for another 5 Chibok girls to come to school in the US, admissions and scholarships. We worked with the US Embassy to create special visas mechanisms for the Chibok girls because of their limited language skills and their special circumstances. So over the years, it's been remarkable seeing the changes, the skills. And I saw one of the girls who went to Texas recently. She drives well. She's completely American now. It's unbelievable. If she doesn't tell you she's from Chibok, you will not know. You simply will not know that she's from Chibok. And so I have to say I'm really impressed with what they've done with themselves. And ultimately, it's very ironic that this very same Nigerian government that didn't want to help out at the very beginning, eventually they realized that this was something that they should do or should have done. But kudos to the girls who made something of the opportunity that was provided to them. Terror didn't win after all.
And that brings us to the end. That was Mr. Emmanuel Ogebe, who was part of the first panel and did a recording because he couldn't join us live. And also he's also part of the ones with the Murtala Muhammad Foundation and Education Must Continue, who have played a role in the girls that are currently in the US. And on that note, on behalf of the Bring Back Our Girls movement, Lagos, Abuja, and New York, I would really like to thank everybody for joining us. Abiba, do you want to do the interfaith prayer? I don't know if you're prepared. Don't worry if you're not. It just occurred to me. We might as well end with that. I'm not even sure if it's still on the call. Okay. So thank you very much to our panelists, Shonibari, Aisha, Mohammed Oyebode, Dr. Alan Minister, Ms. Nana Musugo from the call as Mr. Yakubu. If there are any follow-up questions you wanted to ask, please reach out to the EAE team. We'll be happy to ask and answer and put you in contact with the right person. And on that note, thank you. And please, as we said at the beginning, it's by no means a comprehensive document. So please share your feedback, share your questions. I see some of the girls in the comments engage in the conversation. So please read through and share with us your thoughts. We'll be more than happy to update and republish. That's the beauty of an e-version. We can just do multiple versions. As we update it, we'll issue the multiple versions. Thank you. And that's, you can either scan or use the URL to download the booklets. On that note, have a good afternoon, and thank you very much for your time.
Want these guys to be rescued with immediate effect.
Empty beds, empty hearts. We are trying so hard not to fall apart. Heavy souls, where do we begin when the walls of our lives are just caving in? We come in peace, hand in hand, and we ask that you listen and try to understand this endless pain, oh, this pain inside. won't heal till we have our girls and see them smile. Bring them home, back home. Bring them home, back home. Bring them home, because home is where they belong. Bring our girls back. Bring them home. We won't rest and we won't sleep. We can't keep living in this belief. And we hope and we pray that our girls won't be gone much longer than today. Bring them home, back home. Bring them home, back home. Bring them home, because home is where they belong. Bring our girls back. Bring them home. We want them now. We won't give up. The time is now. Enough's enough. We need them now. Don't let us down. Bring